What if I told you that you've been paying taxes your entire life, and you still don't really know what most of them are or why they exist? Like, think about that for a second. Every time you get a paycheck, money disappears. Every time you buy something at a store, the total is higher than the price tag. Every time you own property, there's a bill waiting for you every single year. And most people just kind of accept it, pay it, maybe complain about it a little, and move on. But nobody ever sat you down and said, okay, here's actually what's happening, and why. I remember the first time I got a real paycheck. I was 19, had just started a job I was genuinely excited about. They told me the hourly rate, I did the mental math, and I thought I was going to be doing fine. Then I opened the pay stub, and I was just standing there in the break room, trying to figure out where like a third of my money went. Federal tax, state tax, Social Security, Medicare. There were so many line items I didn't recognize. I just nodded like I understood and went home completely confused. My name is Jake, and I spend way too much time thinking about taxes, reading about them, trying to figure out why they work the way they do, and honestly, just trying to explain them to people in a way that doesn't make their eyes glaze over. Because here's the thing, taxes are genuinely not that complicated once someone breaks the whole system down for you. The reason they feel overwhelming is because nobody ever does that. Nobody gives you the full picture. Today, I'm going to fix that. We're going to go through every major type of tax you'll encounter in your life, what it is, how it works, why it exists, and what it actually means for you. By the end of this, you're going to feel like someone finally turned the lights on. Let's start with income tax because it's the one that hits most people first and hardest. Income tax is basically what the government takes from the money you earn. In the United States, it operates on a progressive bracket system, which means the more you earn, the higher percentage you pay on the portion of income that falls into each bracket. And this is where a lot of people get confused. They think if they get a raise and move into a higher bracket, suddenly all their money gets taxed at that higher rate. That's not how it works. Only the dollars above each threshold get taxed at the higher rate, so a raise is always worth taking. Always. The practical takeaway here is that understanding your bracket helps you make smarter decisions about retirement contributions, deductions, and timing income strategically. Now let's talk about payroll taxes, because these are the ones that were making up those mysterious lines on my first pay stub. Payroll taxes fund Social Security and Medicare. They come out automatically before you ever see your money. What most people don't realize is that your employer is also paying a matching amount on top of what comes out of your check. So if you're self-employed, you pay both sides, which is called the self-employment tax, and it can feel like a punch in the gut the first time you encounter it. The reason this matters is that payroll taxes are often overlooked when people calculate their actual tax burden. If you're thinking about freelancing or starting a business, you need to factor this in from day one. Capital gains tax is something that starts to really matter once you begin investing. When you sell an asset, whether that's stocks, a piece of property, or basically anything that increased in value, the profit you made is called a capital gain, and the government wants a piece of it. Short-term capital gains, meaning you held the asset for under a year, are taxed like regular income. Long-term gains get preferential lower rates because the government wants to encourage long-term investing. The actionable piece here is simple. Holding your investments for over a year before selling can make a significant difference in how much of your profit you actually keep. Sales tax is probably the one you interact with most frequently and think about the least. You buy something, the price at checkout is higher than the sticker price. That difference goes to your state and sometimes your local government. Sales tax rates vary wildly depending on where you live. Some states have no sales tax at all. Others stack state and local taxes together, and you're paying close to 10% on purchases. The reason this matters, especially for big purchases, is that it's real money. Buying a car in a different state or timing a major purchase around a tax-free holiday weekend can actually save you a meaningful amount. Property tax is the one that surprises a lot of first-time homeowners. You buy the house, you think you've paid for it, and then every year there's a bill based on the assessed value of your home that funds local government, schools, road maintenance, emergency services. Property taxes vary enormously by location, and they're worth researching before you decide where to buy. The actionable advice here is to always factor annual property taxes into your housing budget, not just the mortgage payment. People forget this and then feel blindsided when the bill arrives. Estate tax and inheritance tax are ones people either obsess over or completely ignore. Estate tax is levied on the total value of someone's assets after they die before it gets distributed to heirs. Inheritance tax, which only a handful of states have, is paid by the person receiving the money. At the federal level, the estate tax only kicks in on very large estates, so most people won't encounter it directly. But understanding it matters if you're planning to leave something behind for your family, or if someone is leaving something behind for you. Basic estate planning can preserve significantly more of that wealth across generations. Gift tax is the one that surprises people most because we don't naturally think of giving someone money as a taxable event. But if you give someone above a certain threshold in a single year, technically the IRS wants to know about it. There's a lifetime exemption that's quite high, so most people will never actually owe gift tax. But the paperwork still matters, and ignoring it can create headaches later. If you're helping a family member with a large sum of money, it's worth spending 20 minutes understanding how the annual exclusion works. Excise taxes are kind of the sneaky ones. These are taxes built into the price of specific goods: gasoline, cigarettes, alcohol, airline tickets. You're paying them, but you don't see a separate line item. They're often called sin taxes because governments use them not just to raise revenue, but to discourage certain behaviors. The reason this matters is that these taxes genuinely affect consumer behavior, and they represent a form of policy making through the tax code. Knowing they exist helps you understand why certain products cost what they cost. Corporate taxes are something individuals often dismiss as not relevant to them, but they're woven into the price of everything you buy. When a company pays corporate income tax, that's money that could have gone into lower prices, higher wages, or investment. Whether corporate taxes are too high or too low is genuinely one of the most debated questions in economics. What matters for you is understanding that these taxes don't just live in a vacuum, they filter down through the entire economy. There's also a category of taxes that most people have never heard of, things like the alternative minimum tax, which exists to make sure high earners can't use deductions to reduce their bill to almost nothing, or franchise taxes, which certain states levy on businesses just for the privilege of operating there. These are real and they affect real people, often business owners who get surprised by them. So look, here's what I want you to take away from all of this. Taxes are not just one thing. They're a whole ecosystem of different systems, each with its own logic, its own history, and its own impact on your life. Income taxes fund federal programs. Payroll taxes fund your future retirement and healthcare. Property taxes keep your local community running. Sales taxes fill state budgets. Each one is a different piece of a bigger puzzle. The more you understand how each piece works, the more control you have. You can make smarter decisions about how you earn, how you invest, how you spend, and how you plan for the future. You're not going to become a tax expert overnight, and honestly, you don't need to. But you do deserve to understand the basic language of the financial world you're living in. You've got this, one type of tax at a time.